This is another experimental video. Thank you for your patience while I experiment with my equipment. I want to read for you. I write things, notes to myself that just never make it anywhere. Sometimes I write whole documents. I begin whole drafts of essays, and then I just never do anything with them because I can't figure out how to record them. Well, I think I might have figured out how to read them to you. So I want to read this one to you, and I don't remember writing it. That's a thing. So we'll see if I'm surprised by how I react to my own literature. And I think that's what I want to do. I want to expand my literature with reactions like this, because I think if I'm not reading it, it's not coming out of my voice, and you can't see my face, and then I can't explain in real time because you don't know how to ask questions, and that's fine. I get it, actually, and talking to people, I'm starting to understand. So I'll talk about that too. But let's see what this looks like. I feel like people who are most sensitive to being told their errors are the people most habitually in error. I took on the mindset that if I paid enough attention and learned enough about enough, I would not be in error. I'm not sure what it is, whether it's a male-female thing, a particular kind of upbringing thing, or what. Actually, I might. You can see that I work on my thoughts over and over. I really circle around my thoughts because I talked about this yesterday morning. There are children who refuse correction. In the managerial world, I would say they resist change. That is to say, they believe for a variety of reasons that they already know enough to have opinions, to hold on to them, and to argue them. I write in a spoken word style, but my writing is writing. My writing has a voice, a voicing that's not exactly my spoken word style. That is, people holding on to their opinions and arguing them, has to do with behavior mimicry and personality mirroring. Children are one or other of their parents and their dominant social behavior outside the home. This only makes sense. I'm not looking for a fix, like everyone can't be agreeable as a personality type. I read about how the transfeminization and homosexualization of males in first world countries is indicative of an overall pacifying trend among males and should be hailed as a trend toward peace. I am and have been very wary of this since I don't know what I meant there. Since I saw it, since I read it, since I noticed it, I'm not sure what I meant there. When I was in high school, I made a statement which a stupid person would think is homophobic. We were talking about gay marriage. This is circa 2003, in my current events class. As I recall, my classmates were not in favor of gay marriage, and the teacher, as substitute, was taking the pro stance. Allow me to unstupid you. I am the product of many homosexual sexual assaults in my childhood. As I recall, all by boys my own age. Before this, I was the person a close friend and senior to my freshman came out to and had to politely decline his invitation to be his boyfriend. Not out of any particular disinterest, but because my father had 3 rules as we were growing up. I hate that I'm about to put this in writing, and I don't love that I'm about to repeat it. A bear doesn't shit in the woods. It shits anywhere it wants. Rule 1. You're a dentist, so you can do anything in this world. Rule 2. Except bring a man home for dinner. Rule 3. So, when I pointed out that popular historians had pointed out throughout history that when the Roman elite became publicly homosexual and abandoned their responsibilities to home and family, that is, in my current events class to the substitute teacher, they also abandoned their responsibilities to country and empire. That happened. You can read Edward Gibbon's The Rise and Fall of the Roman Republic for yourself. In fact, you can read anything about Rome. Now, I continue. I was a teenager and no one had a response. I know what the conditioned response will be today. I'm a homophobe of some degree or another, probably the Naziist. As I mature into my adulthood, I wonder often whether there weren't wisdom in what I said. Not because I think the LGBTQ plus community are somehow a bane on society. They are. They're intolerable to hang out with. But I don't need to chill with everyone, vibe, as they say in their so ill-defined way. No. I wonder about what the changes of the last 20 years of my life really amount to. What I thought they would amount to. What by whom they were really given. Gay marriage was never going to fail because too much white wealth was in it. LGBTQism, let's call the community and the movement in good faith and with full love and compassion, is a sect of the larger liberal agenda. I scare quoted both of those words to use common parlance. Historically, and from my perspective, LGBTQism is a sect of the nascent Christian faith. Gay marriage was, sort of, I'm being liberal with the history for this in an instructive way to invite conversation and criticism, not condescension, the Nicene Creed. And that gay marriage was codified into action against a host of other action plans the left publicly put into action. In this context, the left of circa 2003 are a persecuted but plentiful minority among an empire cult-dominated populace, which, if you lived as a person aware of what the world was like before 2001, is really not far off, especially if you remember the Bush years clearly. I feel like I'm the only person who does sometimes. In this narrative of history, LGBTQism is a Valentinian Christianity. They were a very love as thou wilt kind of Jesus cult. They were also educated and wealthy and powerful in their own rights, but extreme in their beliefs, with leaders who could forget themselves and step out of their place in the hierarchy. Valentinus made a pretty powerful bid to be Pope of Rome, for instance. And at the height of their power, LGBTQism got Obama elected and nearly swung the vote in favor of Bernie. Look, I'm ignorant of the rest of the world because I don't care, and fuck you. I know plenty enough of the world's history to understand that its conflicts are decades from being worrisome again. And then what happened? The left fractured. History moved a lot slower 2,000 years ago, but eventually Christianity got some big wins in power consolidation. Then they destroyed the scholastic infrastructure to reinforce their ideals. If you listen to a certain class of academician, LGBTQism, among other leftist ideologies like Marxism, are eroding the scholastic foundations of the reality which is presented to students. If you look at the book banning crises around the world, you'll find Christians being Christians. You don't gotta burn the books, you just remove them. A trick as old as the aftermath of the burning of the Serapeum of the Library of Alexandria. Rally round your family, pocket full of shells. What was I talking about? Is it noteworthy to any of you that Audioslave and Rage Against the Machine of all bands prevent their music from being on tablature sites because they want a cut of any potential profits? Every time I peek in to see what the left are doing, they're infighting about their fracturing and further splintering. Meanwhile, the evil empire consolidate. Is that what I wanted to write about when I started these notes? No. Is this how my brain works? Yes. I've been trying to explain how I read lately. People don't seem to understand. Maybe it's because they don't art, and I spelled that A-R-T-E. Since I was in high school, I've watched and read and listened to and otherwise consumed everything with the mindset to learn it as though I were going to do it. For more than 2 decades now, I have fantasized not about what the details of the thing I would make would be, but what it would not be like, what not to do, how not to make it, a negative approach to my own work, and we've talked about that. I've consumed looking for how I would fix it or get it right. And over the last decade, since I have seriously pursued writing as a daily art with the E spelling, oh man, I fucked up and accidentally opened my translator. I might have just ruined this. Go away. Go away, go away, go away. I can't edit this video. And over the last decade, since I've seriously pursued writing as a daily art, spelled A-R-T-E, meaning the Greek form, I have been compiling and storing data points. We were talking about Stranger in a Strange Land. I said I don't like it because I don't like the 50s. I hate how arrogant all the men always are in every situation. And I hate how all the women are totally ignorant. And I hate how arrogant all the men always are in every situation, especially when they are totally ignorant. And I hate how all the women are either don't give a fuck rough, dog-faced women or compliant Barbie dolls. I hate it because it's an accurate representation of reality. And she says, sounds like he's ripping off Brave New World. So I did what I do. I plotted in my mind how the stories might fit together on a storyboard, or whatever authors call the line graphs of their narratives, and I didn't think the works were derivative enough for the one to be a ripoff. They're both too similar to Gilgamesh to be ripping each other off. My point in that discussion was less what we were talking about than that every story is, in its way, the same as every other, from the first to the last. Something Rob has taught me for sure. And I messed that up. I deliberately didn't tell that story properly because the person that I was talking about is someone that I had determined not to actually talk about in my writing, and I moved past that a long time ago. When I consume, I'm imagining how I would not diverge from reality in the necessary ways which fictional stories must. Like, I hate modern medical dramas. I don't feel like I have it figured out yet. It may not be possible to tell a truly true story and be believed. Truly, I tell you. It may not be possible to learn the lessons of history, not in one life. Something I ponder a lot is Graham Hancock's ideas that there was an ancient antediluvian civilization and that the remnants of it survived a cataclysm into and through the last millennia or whatever of the last ice age. By this reasoning, they built in stone with knowledge and skills from a civilization which, with the last of them, were lost. These stoneworks were monuments, but more importantly, they were precisely encoded puzzles to warn the future of another coming apocalypse. Of course, not solely for that purpose. What if there are actually lessons in the fallen civilizations about which we do know? What if ancient historians, including those authors of the Bible and their prophets, were right to moralize? Now, I wrote this having read very little of the actual Bible. Now that I've read very much of the actual Bible, I can tell you they actually were right. There's no what if about it. What if they were right to notice that civilization is a pacification and feminization of males of the species? What if that does, in some inevitable way, lead to an unsustainable civilization? What if that's not necessarily bad? Apparently, it's been scrubbed from the internet, but there's a DuckTales, maybe, episode where Donald is inside a sinking boat. He's plugging the holes with his fingers and toes, and new leaks keep springing. In looking for it, I learned that this comedy trope is called Seal the Breach, and there are lots of examples of it. Here is the earliest I could find, a Popeye cartoon, and I have a link here that I can provide in the description. What if our society is our father's hackneyed and jerry-rigged plumbing, and why does it make sense to keep repairing the leaks 100 years after he died? I don't know. But I think we should gut it all and start over fresh. Together, all of us, the entire world as one, human people, so we can leave our children and theirs a future with projects worth working toward, rather than intractable problems with no solutions. And that was all I wrote. And that's really all there was to say. That we have no intractable problems, and we work right now at division. And this is actually a perfect segue to what I've been working on today with the shorts of Oracling Magic Shadow, because this is what he's talking about when he says that men and women are both weak and only we few are strong. He didn't mean me and him alone. He meant people like us. There are people like us. Just because we're not connected to them and we don't know who they are yet doesn't mean they're not out there, and it doesn't mean that our lives aren't about finding them, and that's not the seeking that we are doing in our religious quests, right? Our knight errant as a dark night of the soul errant as it is really for both of us. I would say me especially. He, as a father, has more grounding him to the future than I do, at least in your opinion, your first, blush. You look at me and you go, yeah, well, he could just walk away from all of it. He's walked away from so much. Why wouldn't he? And I get that too. But yeah, that's what my writing is like. And so I'm going to do more of these instead of I'm gonna space my work out. I want to get way ahead of myself so that I can just kind of relax. I want to show you what that looks like. So thanks for being here. This one's going to be right at 15 minutes. I am Shaggy Philaletea, and you have been watching Shaggy read Shags. Take care.